This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. We're in Glasgow to announce Josh Taylor's mandatory defence of his world titles against Appen Kong Song. John, I was going to let you do that, but I've just done it.
Thank you.
But before we come on to that, have you recovered from Las Vegas?
Well, I had a nice little bout of food poisoning last week, which added to the jet lag, made me feel pretty sorry for myself for a day or two. But yeah, I'm up and cruising now. I'm ready to go again.
Just kind of touching back on that wonderful night in Las Vegas, and everyone kind of was in awe of what we were witnessing from the UK especially, and there was a lot of obviously fans from back home that had made the trip. But what was your kind of thought process as you were seeing what was going on unfold?
Well, I mean, it was right up there for me. I've been going to Vegas doing big fights and heavyweight fights since Tyson and Bruno in 1989, February 1989. And so I've seen a lot of fights over there, and a lot of very big fights. But the atmosphere during the week, maybe it was more electric when Ricky fought Mayweather, but so far as the heavyweights are concerned, this was huge. Number of media from all around the world who were there. There was a big buzz, which you must have been aware of, around the city, and it was just great to be a part of it. And then for Tyson to go out and deliver what he did, it was a quite stunning performance. I mean, I've always rated Tyson, and I've always liked him as a bloke, but to see him go out there and perform as well as that, it really is complete rehabilitation from where he was a year or two ago, and it's one of the very, very greatest sporting comebacks ever, I think.
I mean, when we kind of look at the build-up to that, it was almost reverse psychology, because he pretty much told the media and everyone what he was going to do, and everyone kind of generally maybe took it with a pinch of salt and thought, is he really going to take that approach? But he absolutely did.
He did. He totally did. His father had spoken to us about it before the fight, and he'd been so emphatic. You must have seen the interview where he said he'd bet David Haye 50,000 quid or 100,000 quid if he wanted it, because he said he will not only beat him, he'll go out there and knock him out. And it was what he did. I mean, I was surprised when I got over there, Coogan, that so many of our supposed experts were saying that Wilder was going to go and knock him out. On what basis? On what basis was that going to happen? Tyson had beaten him, having crashed his weight, and he beat him in Los Angeles. He didn't get the verdict, which was pretty shameful, but he won the fight. Anybody who knows boxing knows that Tyson won that fight. So why was he now going to lose when he was better prepared and more ready for it than he had been in Los Angeles? And I just couldn't see it. And it was pretty much what I anticipated, and I was delighted that he was able to deliver so emphatically. It was one of those great performances, wasn't it? It was one of those, I was there. It was one of those. It was a performance for the ages.
A lot of people I spoke to out in Las Vegas, especially kind of the UK press, were backing Wilder for the knockout. I suppose they looked at that first performance and thought almost the view that Tyson Fury got away with it, but in actual fact he didn't get away with it, and Wilder, 12 rounds in, couldn't keep him to the canvas. So yeah, what made people think that was going to be repeated and he weren't going to get up from it?
I just thought to pick Wilder for me was not a logical choice. And the fact that Fury was a gambling outsider, I found absolutely amazing. Remember that first fight, that 12th round. He gets knocked down. There's the count. He just about manages to scrape up the great, astonishing comeback. But he won the rest of the round. Having been knocked down, he went and won the rest of the round. And the bloke who was struggling at the end of that 12th wasn't Tyson Fury. It was Deontay Wilder.
But just going back to what you were saying about John Fury, he again, I remember watching that interview on BT, and he pretty much said word for word exactly what was going to happen. But again, when John talks, sometimes people think, obviously, hugely and understandably biased. So is it just John being John? But John,
you tend to listen as well, don't you, when John says something? You know, he's not somebody to take the mick out of. He's he's 20 stones, fit, square, and tough, and very articulate. But he said to me afterwards, because I rang him when I got back to England and said, "Am I speaking to the most proud dad in the world?" You know, and we had a little chat about the fight. And he said, "You wouldn't believe how many times I've sat on my own just watching again and again and again Deontay Wilder." He said there was nothing about Deontay Wilder as a fighter that I didn't know. And he also said, "I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but one thing I do know about is fighting." And, between them, himself and Tyson, they got the tactics absolutely spot on. And then the switch of trainer got a lot of talk, didn't it? And I felt for Ben, because Ben did so much to bring Tyson back from the brink, and he's a great friend. And it must have been a difficult decision to make, to move away. But I was talking to, sorry if this is sounding awfully name droppy, isn't it? But I was talking to Lennox at the weigh-in, who was working for us on the preview programme. And I said to him, is 8 weeks with Sugar Hill going to really make any difference? Can he change him as a fighter? And Lennox said, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And he went to demonstrate. He said, here, look, this is how Tyson was jabbing. He said he was flicking. So he's going like that and flicking with his hand. And then he said, now this is what he will do. And so I get this great punch into my chest from Lennox. And he said he'll get onto his front foot and bang, through the target. And that, he said, is the biggest difference. And if you remember, in that first round, Tyson almost ran to the middle of the ring, didn't he? Almost sprinted off his stool to command the centre of the ring. And then he hit Deontay Wilder with this ramrod left-hand lead, which rocks his head back. And you could almost see the shock in the face of Deontay Wilder. And after that first round, which I think David Hay described as pretty much a perfect round, didn't he, for Tyson Fury? And he said it was as good as he'd ever seen, as well as he'd ever seen in box. I don't think that Wilder ever remotely settled into the fight after that opening round. It was a perfect game plan, brilliantly executed.
It's quite normal after a fight for there to be a series of conspiracy theories to kind of downplay Tyson's win. We always knew something was coming, and obviously the whole issue around Deontay Wilder's £40 costume, and also this situation, it's not even a situation, but the videos online surfacing suggesting something about Tyson Fury's gloves. What have you kind of made of all that?
Rubbish. I mean, if he thinks... they've got to try and reinvent history, haven't they, to try and make the third fight saleable. And they've got to attempt to get the public to buy into a third fight. Wilder has. And I think his corner people have got to try and get something into his head whereby he actually believes that something caused that, and that it wasn't his own inability to fight. They're looking for an excuse for the fans, but they're looking for an excuse for him as well. It's the word which sprung to mind when you were hearing all this stuff pouring in was delusional, because anybody who watched that fight, and particularly if you were there as close to the action as we were, to talk about something wrong with the gloves, or to talk about him being tired because of that silly uniform, it's just preposterous. What happened was he got into the ring against a bloke who was a better man than he was, and he was beaten up. He wasn't just beaten, he was beaten up.
So, roll on the summer. It looks like we are going to get a third fight, as Wilder seems to have activated his right to, which is fair enough. You look at it from Wilder's perspective, why wouldn't he want another crack at Tyson?
Well, where's he going to get the same money? Joshua's tied up with Pulev. Tyson, the contract's in force. He's got a 60-40 split guaranteed, which is going to be mega millions for him. The pay-per-view we gather in America sold something between 800,000 and $1 million, didn't it? Which at $75 a head is huge money, humongous. And he's simply not going to get that sort of financial reward anywhere else. And it's easy for sort of the armchair experts to say, well, what he really needs to do is take a couple of steps back and to regroup, have a confidence-building fight, and then come again in another couple of years. But in another couple of years, he's 36, and the game might have moved on. He might never get that opportunity again. So that's why he's taking it.
Well, like I said, with the current situation regarding all the heavyweights, including Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, etc., even Alexander Usyk, they're all got fights coming up. So, do we want to see a third one? Ideally, probably not. But why not? I mean, for Fury as well. I mean, who would Fury fight if he wasn't to fight Wilder? I mean, or who would we want to see him fight? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Well, the fight which everybody wants is against Joshua, isn't it?
But I'm just saying for next. I mean, that's being talked about for later on in the year, and Joshua's already fighting Pulev. But if you kind of take out that, all the heavyweights are kind of now have got fights coming up, and Fury's not going to want to sit around kind of waiting, if you like. So
I say go for it. You know, I think the fight's going to happen, isn't it? It's going to be July at the MGM Grand, and it's all going to be going again. And Wilder trying to execute a rather better game plan than he did this time. I think Tyson will go again with it. I nearly used a bad word then. Make an awful lot of money again, and move on from there. I think he will win, and I think he'll win comfortably, although with somebody who can punch as hard as Deontay Wilder, you never ever say with 100% certainty that that's going to happen. But you know, I mean, likewise, Pulev and Joshua. You know, we're talking a lot here about Tyson Fury, but so far as Anthony Joshua is concerned, let's not forget that it's only the fight before last that he got pretty badly knocked out by Ruiz, and then in the rematch he ran around and nicked a verdict, didn't he? It was from his point of view, it was a good game plan. But if you're looking at it as a Pulev supporter, as a Pulev promoter like Bob Arum, you'd say, well, yeah, he won, but was he gun shy? And one thing we know about Pulev, he can't move like Sugar Ray Leonard, can he, to put it mildly? But he's a big, strong man, and he can hit. So you never know. You know, I'm not sure I'd want to be on at 6-1 on Anthony Joshua. The walk of life.
Interesting times in the heavyweight division. Mike Goodall blaring out the tunes in the back there. John, let's obviously finish off by talking about this show on May the 2nd. Josh Taylor, unquestionably the best in the weight. I mean, that's... All right, Mike. All right, mate? All right, Mike?
I think he's safely checked.
I forgot my train of thought there.
You were going to ask about Josh Taylor, I think.
Josh Taylor, absolutely, yeah. Unquestionably, if not the best in the weight, but kind of really coming into his peak at the moment, Josh Taylor.
Well, he's a fabulous fighter, isn't he? The performance which he produced to win the World Boxing Super Series against Prograis was a fantastic boxing performance, because he was an outstanding fighter in his own right. That was one of our very best fights of the last 12 months. And Josh to come through and win it in the manner that he did, I'm sure that the Glasgow public's going to turn out in force to see him in action on May the 2nd. He's outstanding. You know, you look at the terrific Scottish boxers of years gone by, of Ken Buchanan's, Jim Watt, Scott Harrison. Josh is in that sort of bracket. He's an outstanding champion, and he's one of the best fighters in Britain today, and I can't wait to watch him in action once more.
What did you make of his newly formed partnership with Ben Davison? Should be interesting.
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because not least, Ben is supposedly with Billy Joe Saunders, who's penciled in for this fight with Canelo on the same night. So Ben can't be in two places. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that one. I'll be asking the question at the press conference. Absolutely interesting. I'm sure everyone's kind of curious to know. Obviously, the fight with Canelo and Billy Joe hasn't been
formally announced yet. And
Yet.
but listen, it's with Golden Boy Canelo. You don't until they've announced it. We don't know, do we? I mean, Callum Smith was the front runner less than a week ago. So
I'll tell you what. A question for you here: Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo. How emphatically does Billy have to win that fight to get a points verdict in Las Vegas? He's going to have to absolutely annihilate him.
I would say he'd have to win 10 clear rounds out there. If not stop him, which is a tall order, but he would have to win a minimum 9-10 rounds to get that.
Well, let's get Golovkin on the line and see what he thinks, because I think Triple G certainly won the first fight, and I thought he won the second fight as well, although I do accept that was closer, and there are people out there who thought Canelo won that one. But I think to get a points verdict against Canelo in Vegas at the moment, it's a difficult thing to do.
Exciting times. John, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. We look forward to the press conference today, and boxing is absolutely on a high. It
certainly is. Certainly is. We're going from one big fight to the next, aren't we? We've got that little matter of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois before we get onto this one.
Absolutely. John Rawlings, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, mate. Cheers.